We were mocking my husband at a neighborhood party, until he stood up and told me it's over forever. Hey Reddit, I'm using a throwaway account because this story is so embarrassing, and I don't want my husband to find out I'm posting it, since he follows my main. I'm in a bad situation, and I honestly have no idea what to do. My name is Lisa, I'm 24, and my husband Jack is 26. We've been married for 3 years, and we've known each other since college. I never imagined things would end up like this. I guess it all started with misunderstandings and my careless actions. I apologize if this is all over the place. I'm still hurt and confused. You see, Jack is an introvert, while I've always been the social one. I love hosting parties, being surrounded by people, while Jack enjoys quiet nights at home with a book or movie. He's always been supportive of my social life, even though it's not his thing. But I pushed things too far, and now I regret everything. A bit of backstory. Jack has always been a bit of a pushover. I hate using that word, but it's the only one that fits. He's always bent over backwards to make me happy, doing everything he could to make our relationship work. I guess I underestimated him because of that. I assumed he'd never leave, that he loved me too much to stand up to me. Jack's the type of guy who'd get up early to bring me my favorite coffee, cancel his plans to be with me when I was down, and always prioritize me. He was kind, attentive, and eager to please. Over time, I started to take it for granted. I didn't realize how much effort he was putting into our relationship or how my behavior was impacting him. I began pulling away. Jack, wanting to keep me happy, agreed when I said I wanted to be a stay-at-home wife, even though we didn't have kids. He didn't hesitate, but I began slacking off, doing less around the house, expecting Jack to handle everything. After long days at work, he'd come home to a messy house and no dinner, yet he never complained. He just got to work, cooking, cleaning, doing it all. I started seeing him as weak, resenting him for always being so accommodating. I wanted someone stronger, someone who could challenge me, not someone who gave in to my every whim. I began hanging out with friends more, having fun while Jack stayed home. I mocked him behind his back, making jokes about him with my friends, who encouraged it. They said I deserved better, someone who could keep up with me. The more I distanced myself, the harder Jack tried to hold on. He'd surprise me with gifts, plan romantic dinners, and talk about our future, but I'd already checked out. I didn't want someone who idolized me. I wanted passion and excitement. Our relationship turned into a cycle, Jack trying to please me, and me pushing him away. I started flirting with other guys, enjoying the attention. Jack noticed, but he never said anything. He just kept trying harder to win me back, thinking his love would fix everything. As I lost respect for Jack, so did our friends. It wasn't just the jokes I made about him, it was the way I dismissed him in front of others, rolling my eyes at his attempts to contribute to conversations or ignoring him completely. Our friends followed my lead, treating Jack with less respect. They'd make jokes about him being whipped or too accommodating, but Jack, ever the peacemaker, would laugh it off, never showing his hurt. I'd see a flicker of pain in his eyes, but he'd quickly hide it with a smile, saying he was just glad I was happy. I didn't realize how much it was affecting him, how it was tearing down his self-worth. Jack's few remaining friends began distancing themselves from him, not understanding why he put up with me. They'd tell him he deserved better, that he needed to stand up for himself, but Jack would always defend me. He said I was just going through a phase, and that he loved me no matter what. The more he defended me, the weaker he appeared, and the more our friends and I lost respect for him. It became a cycle I didn't know how to break. I started hanging out with people who encouraged my behavior, telling me I could do better than Jack, that I should find someone more on my level. Jack, on the other hand, withdrew even more. He focused heavily on his work, taking on more projects and extra hours. He became quieter, more reserved, and avoided social events. When we did go out, he stayed in the background, letting me have the spotlight. I was too caught up in my own world to notice how much this was affecting him. Looking back, I see how unfair I was to Jack. He deserved better. He was a kind, loving partner, and I took him for granted. My own insecurities and need for validation drove a wedge between us, and I pushed away the one person who loved me unconditionally. There are so many moments where I disrespected Jack, and since I feel like venting, I'll share a few with you. Sorry if this gets long. It started months before the neighborhood party, around the time I started pulling away from Jack. I had reconnected with old college friends who had recently moved into the area. They were fun, carefree, and seemed to live the kind of life I thought I wanted. One Friday, my friend Tina invited me out for a girls' night. It was supposed to be just dinner, but it quickly turned into a night of bar hopping and dancing. Jack, ever the supportive husband, encouraged me to go out and have fun. He even gave me extra money to cover any expenses, and I accepted without a second thought. That night, for the first time, I openly mocked Jack in front of my friends. Fueled by drinks, I told them how Jack did everything for me, how he let me be a stay-at-home wife even though we had no kids, and how he never complained. Tina and the others laughed, egging me on, and I loved the attention. The next morning, I woke up with a hangover and a sense of guilt. Jack, as usual, made me breakfast after my night out. He asked how my night was, but I gave him a vague response, avoiding details. I could see concern in his eyes, but he didn't push for more. Instead, he told me he was glad I had fun and that he loved me. The guilt I felt quickly turned to irritation, and I brushed him off. Over the next few weeks, I went out more often with friends. Jack, despite growing visibly tired, continued to support me. Our conversations became brief, and the tension between us grew. I could sense his disappointment, but I ignored it, convincing myself he would never leave me. One evening, Tina and some friends came over for a movie night. Jack cooked dinner for us and then retreated to the bedroom to give us space. After a few glasses of wine, the conversation shifted to relationships. Tina mentioned her boyfriend, wishing he were as devoted as Jack. This led to more jokes and comments about how Jack was too good for me, how I had him wrapped around my finger, and how he was such a pushover. I, again emboldened by alcohol, joined in. I mocked Jack's habits, his quirks, and how he would do anything for me. I even joked that I could probably tell him to jump off a cliff and he'd ask, "How high?" The laughter from my friends made me feel powerful, even though I knew it was wrong. Jack must have overheard everything, but he never brought it up. The next morning, he acted as if nothing had happened, though the hurt in his eyes was unmistakable. He kissed my forehead, told me he loved me and left for work. I felt a pang of guilt, but I quickly buried it. The breaking point came a week before the neighborhood party. Jack and I had been invited to a barbecue at our neighbor's house. It was a warm, sunny day, and everyone was in good spirits. As usual, Jack was the perfect husband, helping with the grill, making sure everyone had food and drinks, and being his usual kind self. At some point, the conversation shifted to relationships, and we started talking about how much effort our partners put in. I began bragging about how Jack did everything for me, how he catered to my every whim, and how he was the perfect husband. My friends laughed and started making jokes about how whipped Jack was and how I had him under control. Jack was nearby, and I saw him listening to everything. Instead of feeling proud, I felt ashamed. But my need to impress my friends was stronger than my guilt. I laughed along and made even more jokes at Jack's expense. That night when we got home, Jack didn't say a word. He went straight to bed, leaving me alone in the living room. I sat there for a long time, feeling both angry and regretful. I knew I had pushed him too far, but I didn't know how to fix it. I convinced myself that everything would blow over, as it always had, and that Jack would forgive me like he always did. I had no idea that barbecue was the final straw for Jack. The neighborhood party was the beginning of the end. It was just another gathering, something our community did regularly. We live in a close-knit area, and these parties were a chance to catch up, relax, and have fun. But that night, I made a huge mistake. The party had been organized by our neighbors, and everyone was there, enjoying themselves. Jack, as usual, was manning the grill, and I was with my friends. After a few drinks, the conversation turned to our husbands, and naturally, Jack became the topic. My friends all knew how much Jack doted on me, and they found it amusing. Someone mentioned how lucky I was to have a husband who would do anything for me. Feeling tipsy, I laughed and joked about how Jack never said no, how he was always willing to do whatever I asked, and how he sometimes seemed to lack a backbone. The laughter and teasing continued, with my friends making jokes about how whipped Jack was. That's when I noticed the silence. I turned and saw Jack standing there, pale and expressionless. He had heard everything. Jack walked over to the table where we were sitting, looked directly at me, and said we needed to talk. I was surprised but followed him. The party continued, but I could feel the eyes of everyone on us. That's when Jack said he was done. At first, I thought it was a joke, but Jack wasn't smiling. He said he was tired of being disrespected, both by me and by others. He told me he was leaving and that I wouldn't be coming back to our home. He said my things would be on the porch, and with that, he walked out. I stood there stunned. He walked off, leaving me standing there, stunned. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, their expressions filled with pity. They might not have heard what we said, but with the look on our faces and the way Jack walked away, it was obvious something bad had happened. I hurried after him, but by the time I got home, Jack was already packing up my things. I begged him to stop, cried, and tried everything I knew would get to him, but it was as if he had shut down completely. He wouldn't even look at me, let alone listen to anything I said. He kept packing, determined, and eventually he finished. He tossed my things out of the house and told me to leave. At first, I refused. I pleaded with him, but then he threatened to call the police. I knew he was serious, so I had no choice but to go. As I walked out, I could feel the eyes of the neighbors on me, even my so-called friends. None of them came to help or comfort me. They just watched from a distance. I walked down the street carrying what I could, tears streaming down my face. My mind was spinning, trying to process what had just happened. I had underestimated Jack for so long, never thinking he would stand up to me like this. I ended up at a nearby park, still in shock, and called my dad to come pick me up. Thankfully, he came quickly. He was disappointed to hear what had happened but took me home. I've been staying at my parents' house for a few days now, and I'm completely lost. I've tried calling Jack, but he won't answer. He won't respond to my texts, and I just don't know what to do anymore. This place is way more toxic than I expected. I should have known better. Look, I know I messed up. I don't need everyone constantly reminding me of it. I came here for advice, not to be insulted. Can you guys just stop? The hate is overwhelming, and I regret even posting here. I wanted guidance, not judgment. And to answer some of your questions, no, I don't have a job right now. I literally mentioned that in my first post, so I don't get why people keep asking. And no, my relationship isn't over. I'm hoping we can work things out. Also, no, this isn't fake. I have better things to do than create a fake story just to post on Reddit. Yes, I know I need to get a job and start rebuilding my life, but it's hard to focus on that when all I can think about is Jack. I miss him so much, and it hurts knowing that my actions pushed him away. I wish I could take it all back, but I can't. To everyone who has given me real advice, thank you. Your words have been a lifeline in this dark time. But for those of you just here to criticize, understand that I'm already dealing with the consequences of my actions. I don't need more negativity. I'm trying to take things one day at a time, figuring out how to make amends and show Jack I can change. It won't be easy, but I'm determined to do whatever it takes. If anyone has real advice on how to navigate this. Another update. I don't even know why I bother posting here anymore. Reddit is such a toxic place, but since I have nowhere else to vent, here I am. First, I just want to say how grateful I am for my parents. Without them, I'd probably be homeless right now. They've been my rock through all of this, and I honestly don't know what I'd do without their support. Second, I've realized all my friends, including Tina, are fake. None of them have reached out to me since the incident, not a single call or text. They're horrible people and I've blocked them all. It's clear they never really cared about me. As for my husband, we finally talked, and he's set on the divorce. I know he'll regret it and miss me, but I'm going to give him what he wants. And when he comes back, I won't take him back. So yeah, that's where I am. Still trying to figure out my next steps. It's hard to think about the future when everything feels so uncertain. I've been applying for jobs, but nothing has come through yet. It's discouraging, but I'm trying to stay hopeful. I still can't believe how fast everything fell apart. One moment, I was on top of the world, surrounded by friends, and the next, I was alone, my life in ruins. It's a lot to process, and I'm struggling to come to terms with it. Despite everything, I'm determined to move forward. I know I made mistakes, and I'm willing to work on becoming a better person, but it's hard not to feel bitter. I gave so much to my friends and my husband, and now I'm left with nothing. To those who have been supportive, thank you. Your kindness means more than you know. To those who have been harsh, I hope you never find yourself in a situation like mine. It's easy to judge from the outside, but harder when your life falls apart. For now, I'm taking things one day at a time. I'm focusing on finding a job, saving money, and eventually getting my own place. It's going to be a long road, but I'm determined to get there. I don't need anyone's pity or judgment, just the strength to keep moving forward. Hey Reddit, it's me again. I know I said that was my last update, but I just had to fill you guys in one more time. After months of toxic comments, I stopped coming here. But here's the final update. The divorce is finalized. I'm still living with my parents, and I got a job, though I hate it. It's low paying and my dad had to help me get it, but I'm stuck with it for now. As for the divorce, it was straightforward. The house was always Jack's, even before we got married, and since I was a stay-at-home wife, I got a bit of alimony, but it wasn't much. We didn't have kids, so there was no custody to deal with. I tried talking to Jack, but he's really done with me. The sad part is he seems happier without me, and that stings. I know I messed up, and I'll never forgive myself. I don't want to hang around Reddit anymore. It's just too toxic, but I owed you all one last update. To everyone who sent hate, please get a life. Thanks and goodbye. Last update. So, I know I said that was the final update, but I found out something crazy. All my single friends, the ones who used to mock my ex with me, are now trying to get with him. I found out when I ran into someone from the neighborhood recently. Back when I was with Jack, I didn't talk to her much because Tina didn't like her, but she filled me in on all the gossip. Apparently, my ex doesn't seem interested in any of them, which is good because they're awful people. It's funny how things turn out. The very people who drove a wedge between us are now scrambling for his attention. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but it's a lesson learned. That old acquaintance was surprisingly kind and didn't hold my past against me. She even offered to help if I ever needed anything, which was a relief. It's good to know there are still decent people out there. I'm still at that terrible job, but at least it's something. I've been saving up, hoping to move out of my parents' place soon. It's tough, but I'm determined. Jack and I don't talk anymore, and I've tried reaching out a few more times, but he's done with me. Seeing him happier without me is a constant reminder of how badly I messed up. I've started therapy, which is helping me reflect on my actions and understand why I behaved the way I did. It's a long road, but I'm committed to changing. Anyway, this really is the last update. I'm trying to stay positive and focus on the future, taking it one day at a time. To those who offered constructive advice, thank you. Your support means more than you know. To those still sending hate, please move on. We all make mistakes, and I'm doing my best to learn from mine. Life's too short to hold onto so much negativity. Thank you and take care.